I'm Ashley.
And I'm Kendall, and welcome to Bound by Fantasy.
It's about books and bookish things.
Today we're going to talk about ACOTAR, A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. So I have already read the entire series, and this is Ashley's first time around, so don't give anything away. So we're going to just talk about this and ask her some questions and anything else.
Yeah, so I did read the first book. I read A Court of Thorns and Roses, and I am partway through the second book. So I'm gonna try very hard to just focus on the first book and try to block out what I've seen so far in the second one. And we're hoping to do a recording for each of the books as I read them. I felt like after I read them, I needed to really just digest what I read afterwards. So we're gonna try to dive in and chat about the book today.
So the first question is, did you like it?
I did. Um, yeah, I think pretty immediately actually. I felt like I started reading it and it grabbed my attention pretty quickly. I know what you mentioned, maybe I needed to give it a little bit of time or something, but I actually felt like it did grab my attention fairly quickly.
Yes.
Maybe the first chapter or so was a little slow, but after that, yeah, it grabbed my attention pretty fast.
So, if you haven't read The Court of Thorns or Roses, we're just going to give you a quick synopsis. It is about a 19-year-old. Her name is Feyre, and she is in the woods trying to provide for her family. And while she's in the woods, she kills a wolf who actually isn't a wolf, and she has consequences because of that. So, saying that, would you have shot the wolf?
Um, I think I would have probably. Although she was thinking, maybe it was a fairy at some point.
Right.
She was kind of thinking maybe it is. Um, but I mean, she would have missed out on killing a deer, which would have fed her family for a really long time. So yeah, I mean, I think you kind of have to, right? Um, yeah. So I mean, I think I would have, but I don't know which one I would have taken back with me. That was a question I had. Was would I have taken the deer back with me or taken the wolf back and taking the wolf skin seemed I don't know. I'm would the wolf have been better to take back? I'm not sure. Um, when you learn about it later, I think it's a little less gruesome with what she did do, but
Right.
yeah, but I think I don't know if I would have what I would have done. What would you have done?
So, I don't know if I could have shot the wolf, just because one, partly they're my spirit animal, and
Two actually, but I'm if I'm starving,
right, true. But two, also knowing that it was possibly a fae, the fact that she's like, oh, I'm just going to shoot the fae, consequences be darned. I was like,
right. Knowing that, I don't know if I would have. I might have just shot. But if she shot
she
the
was
deer,
starving, right?
she would have. The wolf would have just eaten the deer too. So
Mhm.
yeah,
So yeah, it's like a catch-22.
yeah, yeah. Interesting. Yeah, no, that was. I feel like I was at a crossroads at that point where I was what would I have done here?
Right. So knowing that she ended up shooting the wolf and she gets consequences of it, what did you think was going to happen when the beast showed up at the house?
That's a good question. I feel I don't know. Initially I thought he was just gonna eat her, for sure. So I think it was very interesting that she got she learned that he was a fairy and that she had shot a fairy and she really had no remorse over it either.
No,
There was no remorse whatsoever.
no, she did not care.
Yeah.
Were you surprised by how her family reacted? Like basically like throwing her into the beast?
Yes. I just let her go. I'm what's going on here? If it was my family, I would hope they wouldn't just be all right, yeah, see you
Right?
later, peace, bye. Right?
I mean, but realistically, Nesta, the oldest sister, let the youngest sister provide for them for so long and was like, I don't care.
Well, and her dad, yeah, her whole family really bothered me. I'm like, her dad's doing nothing, right? He hasn't done anything in years whatsoever. Her sisters are just like letting her do this, and they're spending all of her money that she's
Mhm.
off the food. I don't know. I'm like, I was not a fan of the family at all.
No, especially like the vultureness, basically when she gets all that money from the pelts, or they know that she's gonna get money from the pelts, and they're like, "Let's go and follow her in town so we can steal the money she gets." Basically, I'm like,
Right. They just like following her around. No concern whatsoever.
well, she could have died from this wolf, but we're more worried about the money.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So, spoilers coming up. Obviously, the beast comes, takes her away. She knows she's going into Fey lands,
Hmm.
freaking out, and then we find out the beast is Tamlin.
Right.
What did you think when he like transformed back into Tamlin?
I was surprised, I guess. Like, yeah. Because I never read anything where there's like, I've seen like well, 'cause I also like didn't know it was about fairies. I guess like maybe you told me, but like I didn't know that until it happened. And then I was like, oh, interesting. Okay. So I was like, is this about werewolves? Like, where are we going here? So no, it was pretty interesting when he turned into a fairy. And then also just like, yeah, he wasn't really like speaking to her. He kind of like blocked her out from seeing anything or
Mhm.
knowing where she was going and what was happening for a while. So that was interesting. I just wasn't sure what to like make of him for a while. I feel like, are you gonna like? I thought he was gonna like enslave her or something. Really, like when she got there, I figured like she would have to, you know, serve their whole castle and things and like take care of everybody there. So it was very interesting when he's just like, you can do what you
Right.
want, essentially.
And essentially, when he goes and she goes into the spring court, it's only him and Lucian, and then the maid Alice.
Yes.
And it's kind of like you have this whole big court, and there's nobody around. Didn't you find that a little fishy, or did you not even think about that?
I don't know that I did think about it until like I found out later what happened. Because I think that she saw a couple other people periodically, but like not really. It was just the three of
Mhm.
them, right? Like I don't know. I guess I just like assumed she was only like hyper focused on them for a while, and
Right.
I didn't. It didn't click to me. When you were reading it, were you like wondering where is everybody?
Yes, it was because it was like if he's this, well, we'll talk about that in a second. If he's like a fae inside this huge court, where is everyone? Like a court is a ton of people,
Yeah.
and we know that they have magic, but obviously magic isn't doing everything. So like, where is
Where
everybody
is
doing
everybody?
everything?
Yeah.
Um, then obviously they all three of them have the masks on that they can't remove.
Right.
So
That was interesting.
yeah, and then they had it on for 50 years. It's kind of like, how would you have felt if you had the mask on for 50 years?
I Oh my gosh. That would have driven me absolutely crazy. Like I don't know. I even like I pick my nail polish off when it's
Right?
all the time. Like I'm like, oh look, my nails look wonderful for a couple days, and then I'm like, nope, I gotta pick it all off. So imagine having something like stuck to your face for that
Mhm.
long, not being able to take it off. And yeah, I don't know. I'd be like a wreck. I feel like they just accepted that that's what was happening. But
Yes. Well, and then, well, I mean, Lucian does talk about if he could cut it off of his face, that he would. So it almost makes me think because he made that statement
that they tried.
that they tried to
Yeah,
physically cut it off their face, and
I feel like I would have
I mean,
definitely tried everything. Yeah, I tried everything to get it off.
they would have definitely be like, "Nope, I'm ripping this off my face."
Yeah. I think like at some point maybe it would be like wearing jewelry, right? Like I have earrings in all the time. So it's like maybe you would adjust to it, I guess. Or
Right
when you get married and you have your wedding ring on and it's like just you never take it off.
there.
Okay,
Uh-huh.
so maybe eventually you would adjust to it. But I guess, but that would be it's so like I feel like it'd be even hard to see. Like I was kind of picturing
Mhm.
like, when you're in a mask, like you can't see your peripheral vision is
Right. Right.
yeah, so I feel like it blocks your other sensors. And then it's interesting too, like with Tamlin, that when he changes into the wolf though,
There's no
there's
mask.
no mask.
Yes, I agree.
I feel like why not just stay a wolf all the time, basically?
Right. And also, I also was thinking, like, I wouldn't be able to take the mask off. And then I also was always wondering why. she just assumes they're good looking. Like you can see part of their face, but like to me, like this main area right here is like your face. So I always thought it was interesting. Like she's like, "Oh, he's a good looking male," and I'm like, "Is he? Is he not? How do you know with that mask on?"
Right. I guess she like sees their muscles and stuff though, right? So like,
True.
but yeah, I don't know. I feel like makes a lot of assumptions, um, which like it- I honestly, it's kind of like beautiful though because like in everyday life, like we judge people,
Hmm.
right? So if you can't see what they look like, you have to judge them based on personality.
Right.
So I mean, honestly, that's a pretty cool thing. I think that she gets to judge them based on their personality first.
So she's here and she like goes around on the grounds and she is with Lucian and Lucian hints at the cereal.
Hmm.
And she, I think she's crazy enough to try and go capture this elusive being that is all knowing but super deadly. How did you feel about that? And how did you feel about like what he says to her?
Um, know that it I don't know that it bothered me too much. I'm like a huge Lucian fan. Like I really like him.
Me too. Don't worry,
We drawn to him right away.
there's a whole bunch of
I really like him. He's great. So I don't know, but also like I think he kind of partly knew that she like is a hunter and stuff too. So I wonder if she like I think partly he was trying to put her at risk, but partly he was like challenging her to see like what she's capable of. Um, and also like because she is a hunter, I'm like I don't know. I wasn't super worried about her. I guess like I thought like she's gonna be fine. Like she'll be okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure. I did like that she helped the cereal too, and I thought that was good because of like the fact that she killed a fae. I like wasn't sure if she. I'm like, please let them go, like help them. Like I that was I think the biggest thing where I was like, please like let the cereal go. Help them out.
What did you think about when he said to stay with the High Lord and everything will be okay?
I feel like that was like a tall order for where like she really just didn't know anything about what's going on or like and he was not really getting to know her super well at that point in time. Like he
Right,
was really kind of just disappearing for periods of time and coming back, and sometimes I'll,
right.
be and everything. And it's like, no, I feel like that's a tall order to just like blindly trust somebody.
So I agree. So I agree because it was like you stay with him, like they're barely like talking at this point.
Yeah, at that point, yeah. Later, like obviously it's different, but that point I was like, girl, get out of there.
Right? Like run.
Yeah, run away. I feel like. And I thought like maybe the cereal was like trying to like trick her or something too,
Yes.
making her trapped or something at that point. What did you think at that point?
I didn't know what was going on. I was like, what is happening? Is this like a trick? Kind of like how she's like, what? Stay with him. And I was like, okay, we're just gonna trust this like little weird creature that has like bones as a body, and we're gonna see how it goes.
She's like terrifying, right? So I'm like, well, should we just blindly trust? Well, so yeah, I was not sure at that point how trusting I was of that.
Right.
I don't know what I would have done in that case, but I felt like she needed to like get away at that point.
So as we're progressing through the story, and Tamlin finds out that she likes to paint, and she finally feels like that she can paint with them, and all this stuff is happening. We find out about the bad things going on in the court, and we don't know what they are. And then that a fairy comes and is dying from the sun's court.
Hmm.
And that's kind of where like she really knows that something really bad is going on. Knowing what happens later on, did it really hit you when she made that really big statement about, I don't want him to die alone?
Yes, yeah. I think that it, I think that was a huge like moment for her as a character where she like decided that she doesn't hate them. Like I think that up until that point she was very like unsure of them, even though
Mhm.
she was getting to know them better. But I think that that was a huge moment for her as a character where she was like, okay, I don't actually wish like ill upon all of the fairies that exist, and I don't want them all to die, and like something bigger is going on here that I don't know about. And so, yeah, no, it definitely did. And like I thought that I can't imagine like I feel like I would be the same way where I'd have to stay in the room, but like I can't imagine doing that either because it was just such a gruesome, like awful thing to have happen. It was like a uh, real tough moment. But I think that was also like a moment where Tamlin started to like fall for her too. When he was like, okay, maybe
Where he saw the kindness of her, yes.
yeah, she started to like soften up a little bit.
Yeah. And I think that's really where she started to regret killing
Yes,
Anthony at the beginning because she's like, it was a person, well, not a fae that had feelings,
right.
and she
I think she
just
started to see them as more like people, right?
correct,
Like
correct,
not just some creatures that exist that
right,
are bad toward all humans and that they're all the same, maybe.
right. And she understands Lucian's anger because he did one kill him and she kind of skinned him. So
Yeah, when I realized that, I was like, oh, I can't.
I mean, he was a wolf at the beginning, but she did do it.
She did, yeah.
She did. So then after we get to, I'm gonna say the wrong thing, but the fire night, we're just gonna go fire night.
Sure.
And this is kind of where she like disobeys Tamlin for like the first time because he says, stay in the house, don't come out. And she does. And then we get out there and she's basically almost attacked right away by three fae. And Rhysand comes and basically saves her
Yes.
and pretends like, oh, I've been looking for you this whole time.
Mhm.
What did you think meeting him for the first time?
I think like I don't know, I was pretty immediately like a fan of him. Even though like later I'm like, I don't know, when other things happen. But yeah, no, I mean I think like I was happy that someone saved her and like obviously I didn't really know very much about him at that point, but like it just seemed like yeah, she was under attack from these random fairies that nobody they were really unremarkable.
Right. Hmm.
And that like he just came and saved her, like
Right.
that point, but also I think it just showed his like true colors of like that he's actually not a bad fae, right? Like he's not really evil and everything. And so yeah, I don't know. I think that I was like, when is this guy coming back? At this point.
Right. Then he comes back in a terrible way
Right.
because he burst in,
Yes.
finds her, even though they're trying to shield her at the table.
Right.
You know, this is the three plates at the table, and he's like, wait a second. And then, like, gets in her mind and steals her name and makes Tamlin beg for her.
Yeah.
So, like,
Yeah.
her at Fire Night and then, like, making Tamlin beg is like, whoa, what just happened here?
Very, very different. Yes, very different. Which is now obviously that I know a little bit more, I'm like, I know why he was doing that, right? But yeah, but it's so different. I mean,
Yes.
yeah.
And then we'll go back to Fire Night. So Fire Night, Tamlin has to take part in this ritual. The sex ritual. Let's go there. And so he has to find like a willing mate, and obviously all of these fae females are just lined up to be with him. And he doesn't want her there because if he smells her, then he's gonna only go for her.
Hmm.
And in a sense, he kind of did, because we find out later Lucian had to like stop him and like kind of like reprogram him to go to the other ones. But then he comes in later, well, she's like up in the middle of the night, and that's when he bites her. What
Right.
did you know about that?
I I I don't know. That whole thing was just disturbing, honestly. Like, why is this a thing? What is the point of this? What's the point of this ritual? Is it really necessary? Like, also, he seemed like he didn't like it, but he did, and like it was just very. I'm like, what is? I don't know. That part was very. I'm not sure what. I feel like I'm still not sure what to make of it. And now that like 'Cause I've read into the second book, so now
Right.
that I know it might not have been necessary, I'm like,
All right. Yeah.
made me feel even worse about it. But yeah, so I don't know. What did you think of that? Like
I was like, I actually liked it. I was like, "Ooh, girl." Um, but obviously knowing later on like what happens, it like changes your opinion on that whole night. But it was definitely when they like she sparked more romantic with him.
yes.
Like that like was like, oh wow, I'm attracted to this thing. Hmm. Even though like it was like aggressive and he wasn't truly himself.
Well, but then him like going and, being with some other girl though after he does this, I'm like,
Well, that was
I don't know.
before.
That's
Before he comes back. So, but still,
still
he was just with this other girl, and the markings on his body are all smudged in awkward places because she mentioned that, and then he's like all up in her face.
yeah. Yes. Very.
But in the twist of things, this obviously is when they start getting along more, and they go to was the pool of midnight before the next celebration.
I don't remember. I think so.
Okay, so either way, they go to that pool. It's like his favorite spot, and it's got the starlight in the pool, which is freaking awesome. I would love to go to this place.
Right?
And then they have the second celebration, which he lets her come to, and she drinks the Fey wine. And then all of a sudden, she can see all these things, and he gives her the Fey sight, and then bam, there's people everywhere.
Right.
Everywhere. And how did you feel knowing that these Fae were constantly looking at her and like there, and she never knew?
I'd be so self-conscious. I'd be like, what were you doing this whole time? Like, yeah, I don't know. That would so overwhelming. Like,
Yes,
I would be like, I probably would have been thrown into an anxiety attack. Like, I'd be like, what's going on? Where did all these people come from? Like, what have you been watching me do all this time? Have they been stalking me and following
right.
me and stuff? Like, and also because like, yeah, he has people following her later, right? It's like, were they doing that the entire
And
time?
I think they were because I think that's how he always knew where she was.
Oh, that's true.
Because he always just showed up where she was. And she's like, I know it's a small like you were alone, but why do you keep finding me?
Right.
That was thinking about like tried to see her sneak out to go like with her fake dad.
Right.
And
Yeah, how did he find
they all started laughing at her because like, that's like a bad guy and you're just trying to sneak out when everyone's staring at you.
Right. That's true. That's true. Yeah. 'Cause he shows up like immediately, right? So
Mhm.
it's like, yeah, no, he definitely he had eyes everywhere, right? But
Everywhere.
yeah, it feels very stalkery to me.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
why not let her see that from the beginning instead of hiding all of it from her?
Hmm.
Yeah, it feels really, I don't know, not good.
Yes. So they have this beautiful night and he plays the violin for her. She's drawn into that. She
Hmm.
is blown away by like his talents and she's dancing. And then they're really connected at this point. And then bam, he sends her home. The app comes, they're out, or stands there, like he's like, okay, that's it, you gotta go. How did you feel after like they just finally were intimate, had that special moment, finally gave into their feelings, and he's like, you gotta go.
It, it felt very abrupt and like shocking.
Hmm.
And yeah, I don't know. I feel like she also didn't react how I would have reacted, maybe. Like, I feel like she was like, all right, see ya. Like,
Right.
okay. I don't know. I feel like she was questioning it a little bit, but like, not really. Like, she wasn't like, something bad is going on. I should do something about this, or like,
Hmm.
I need to help them. Like, I don't, which I kind of expected at that point she would have been more concerned about them
Right.
because she really was, you know, getting a lot more like feeling for the fairies and like really, you know, I don't know, trying to, look out for them and get to know them better and everything. And so it felt very like abrupt all of a sudden, just like, all right, we had this connection.
Right.
See you later. Yeah. And I don't know if like 'cause she doesn't say I love you, right? And so I
Hmm.
don't know like if I would have either with that
Right.
super harsh, like
You gotta leave. Right.
Yeah. On one hand, I was annoyed with her for not saying it because,
Right.
but on the
And
other
he's right
hand,
there saying it to her, and she's just like me.
I feel like maybe she was just in shock a little bit. Like, what's going on? Why am I being shoved out the door and like sent home? Like, clearly something bigger was going on, so it seemed weird that she didn't question that.
Right. And I think it bothered me the most about that scene is basically Lucian tells her, like, don't do this. Don't
Right.
let him send you away.
Yeah.
You can save us, basically. He's like telling her, you can save us. And she still leaves. And I'm like, why didn't you listen? And
Yeah.
Alice like always says, like, you gotta listen, and she wasn't listening at that point.
No. Well, and it felt so out of character, I guess, for her to not be listening because I felt like she really was. She was trying to, like, learn a lot about them and trying to, like, listen in on conversations and stuff, right? So, like, why that felt like a big contrast in her character of why did she not stay? Why didn't she just let him go? Like, see you later. I'm out of here. Like, I don't know. It felt very abrupt to me.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And then so she's sent home, and she goes home, she sees Nesta, she sees Elaine and her dad, and Tamlin was true about his word. They have all their riches back, and
Hmm.
they're in a big house now, and their other house is kind of like falling apart. Gross.
Right.
And she's just learning to kind of live. And then all of a sudden she realizes she never should have left. And she kind of gets that from Nesta. And we're
Yeah.
surprised that Nesta wasn't, I don't know, hypnotized or her mind changed.
Yeah.
And then Alice was. She knew everything. She remembered everything. Nobody else did, but she did. And she knew where Feyre was the whole time.
And tried to find her.
Yep. And
Yeah.
so went out trying to find her, which is care.
Right. Yeah, no, me too. I was very surprised she came to find her, but I was glad to see that someone cared about her the whole time she was gone.
Yes.
Like, what are they doing? Like,
Yep.
and that her other sister, like, didn't even recognize her at first, like, just didn't even know who she was. Like, I feel like that would have been terrible to come back to as well, especially if both of her sisters
Right.
and her entire family didn't remember her. So I was glad that, like, Nesta did try to find her and try to, like, look for her. And that Nesta knew, like, something's up, right? Like,
Right.
something's going on here. So I think that was, like, nice to see that, okay,
Right.
something's happening here.
Well, and honestly, I feel like if it wasn't for Nesta, she wouldn't have gone back.
Yeah,
Basically convinced her, like, what are you doing here? Like, go save your man.
right.
And so she does. So she goes and she goes back to Spring Court. And when she gets there, everyone's gone.
Right.
We're going to keep going with the series. We are going to probably do a video in the middle of book 2 before stuff goes down. And then we'll finish up with a review at the end, too.
Yes, so we'll talk about each of them. You guys can see my little adventure here, and Kendall gets to re-experience the books through my eyes, which is exciting.
Without hopefully giving anything away. So
Yes.
watch myself. Help me. So if you like what you saw, don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell, and join our community of fellow bookworms.
Because here at Bound by Fantasy, the adventure never ends.